Assalamu alaikum sisters, and welcome back to Hold My Heart podcast, a show brought to you by After Maghrib. Inshallah, today we'll be talking about spouse selection. What kind of things should I look for when I'm selecting a spouse, and what things should I avoid, or what kind of problems can I face when I'm looking to enter into a marriage? Inshallah, we'll discuss everything today. I'm Brother Fatima, your co-host, and as always, I'm joined by Sister Zohra. Assalamu alaikum, Zohra.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well. How are you?
I'm good too.
Yeah.
I'm excited for today's subject.
Honestly, we have an amazing guest with us. I'm extremely excited to talk to her. She does so much for our community, especially for women-only spaces. So I think she definitely will do this topic justice, inshallah, for the girls that are watching.
Inshallah.
And so, inshallah, today we're joined by Sister Isra. Assalamu alaikum, Isra.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you both?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Excited to be here.
Yeah, how does it feel to be on set?
Yeah, strange. I was saying I've done a podcast online, not in person with a set, so it's really nice to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Honestly, we've seen your work on Instagram, and you do so much for the women in our community that sometimes topics that can be taboo in our community. So it is genuinely our honor to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And just for the audience, so we can get to know you a bit better, what is your line of work? What kind of inspired you to do this community service?
So if we want to go back to the start, I graduated in psychology. I think I've always been interested in people, fascinated by people, the way they think, the why they do certain things, why they don't do certain things. And then after my psychology degree, I started, alhamdulillah, had my family, raising my kids. And then I feel like coaching, I would say, found me rather than I found it. I came across it, and I loved how it was how you move forward in your life, how it pushes you to move forward past maybe some of the struggles or the challenges that people face. So I specialized in that, and I love to work with that. But then I also realized along the line that people sometimes do need some therapeutic techniques. So I then did that NLP courses just to equip me with the right techniques and tools to help as many people as I can. So yes, alhamdulillah, work with on a one-to-one basis, courses. You kind of work on giving something for everybody that they can benefit from, inshallah.
Yeah, I think what you do is beautiful. You even had an event yesterday on, like, you focus on a lot of things, even motherhood and things like this. And inshallah, today, to get into this episode, we're talking about spouse selection. What exactly should I look for if I'm trying to get married? A lot of our audience are younger girls watching, and they might be in that pool where it's okay, I should start thinking about marriage, but I don't have enough guidance yet. Or also, I feel like this is a taboo topic. Like, not a lot of resources are out there for younger girls. Okay, what should you avoid? What should you look for? Also, realistic expectations. So, inshallah, I think that might be a good starting point.
It is.
So what kind of things should you look for in particular?
Yeah, I think that's really important. But I would say I think there's something that we should address as a community is that these topics should be addressed from a young age. You know, we shouldn't be waiting for someone to get married to then talk about, or reach the age of marriage when someone is proposing to the girl and then think, oh, what am I looking for? These are things that we do need to have these open conversations from when girls are younger, so that they equip themselves with the person that they want to be, the person that they want to have in their life as well. And that's the benefit of having these conversations and talking about them. And some families are very open about having these kind of conversations, and some families aren't. And that's why it's really nice to be able to provide them with a platform where they can begin to explore certain ideas and their own thought processes. So your question was, where do we start? Is that why?
Exactly, like what qualities should I even look for when I'm thinking about marriage?
Yeah, I think the first thing, even before we look at the qualities of the person that I want in a marriage, is for me to ask myself, who am I as a person? Sometimes we look at marriage as something external of me, like the person that's coming into my life, rather than who am I as a person, first of all. And with any journey in your own personal development, whether it's marriage or later on having kids, you always have to have that introspection first before you look outwards. So a lot of people forget to ask themselves, what do I value? Who am I as a person? What strengths do I have? What's my personality? What weaknesses do I have? What do I find challenging? What kind of person do I aspire to be? Once we begin to explore those things, and I appreciate that when you're young, the answers may not be there, but if you begin to ask these questions of yourself and begin to reflect on them, you start to shed light on these things. And sometimes then when we look at the topic of who do I want, it's looking, who am I? Who do I want to be? And how is this person going to come to guide me on this journey? And ultimately, as Muslims, the beauty of marriage, that it's not just a tick boxing exercise, like, oh, okay, next thing on my list is I need to get married, or that it's just for the sake of fulfilling desires, or that next stage of life. But actually, it's a ibadah. And that's the beauty of it. It's when we see it as a ibadah, and any ibadah is made it's an ibadah because it gets you closer to Allah, because it's part of your growth journey. And that's the beauty of it. It's not about just getting on to that stage of life, but actually, what is it giving me in helping me grow? And when I look at marriage as ibadah and as a growth opportunity, I face it in a very different way. It's less pressurizing. It's like, Allah is with me on this journey. I'm not alone. Even if I don't have the support of my family, even if I don't have the support of my friends, even if I have no one to talk to, Allah is with me on this. I'm doing this for you. Allah, guide me on this. Help me on this journey. And as soon as we give that to Allah, Allah is saying, I'm here. I'm going to help you on this as well. So I think it's sometimes taking ownership of doing your own path, but also having that tawakkul on Allah, that He is there with you and you're not alone in this. Then when you look at that, when you start to explore, what am I as a person? For example, am I someone do I want to serve in the community? Then you start to think, do I want someone that honors that? Do I want someone who's going to push me to serve? Or is it someone that's going to take that value away from me? Do I value family? If I value family, then I will want to have someone who values family as well.
Definitely,
When I value my education, if I value my learning, will I get someone that's going to honor that and support me in that, or is someone going to keep me small to fulfill his own needs? Once you begin to ask those questions of what are my values, that guides you to what kind of person you want naturally.
So, sorry. What kind of values should a young person have who don't have good role models, don't have the equipment to actually think, oh, this is good, this is bad, or the resources? What kind of values do you think they should have and start thinking about so that they can prepare themselves for their future?
Yeah, really good question. I think overall, no matter how practicing or not practicing someone is, but as people of faith, I can't take that formula away. And that's why even the hadith of the Prophet that says, "Man tardawna dinahu wa khuluquhu fazawwijuh." If you accept their faith, their deen, and their akhlaq, fazawwijuh. That's the formula that the Prophet gives us. That's the formula from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then how do I understand faith? Sometimes people understand that deen is that, someone who's just intellectual in their deen. They know the knowledge, they know the fiqh, they know the aqidah, they know the usul, they know all these things. All these things are great. But what is deen? What is the core of deen? It's akhlaq. It's knowing this person is of a high akhlaq. The Prophet was sent as someone to complete that akhlaq. بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. So when I look at their faith, I look at what is their akhlaq. When I look at their faith, I know this person has the fear of Allah in their heart. Their eyes is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They wouldn't do anything that gets them away from that. And that's the most valuable thing that you can have as a woman. The most valuable. If someone has their eyes they're connected to Allah in what I can and can't do, there is no way He's going to disrespect you. There is no way He's not going to honor your growth. There is no way He's going to cheat behind your back. There is no way He's going to do that, because He has Allah at the forefront of His mind. His journey is to Allah. And just like your journey is ibadah to Allah in that marriage, His journey is in that. And so you grow together. And with that, there is so much barakah in that marriage. There's so much love in that marriage. And it just blossoms day after day. So I would say, number one, the value, I would say faith. And by all means, sometimes girls will say, but I don't want someone that restricts me. Sometimes we have this misinterpretation. Someone who's religious is going to be restricting. Sometimes that's our lack of understanding of the deen. And by all means, practicing religion is about faith and action. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. You have to have faith, belief, Allah, Rasul, Ahlul Bayt, all of those, belief system, fair enough. But also the amal al-salih. So when I want someone of faith, I need to look inward and say, am I that person? Have I prioritized faith in my life? All good and well, I want someone to never cheat on me. Let me get a really good religious guy. But am I that person? Do I have that connection to Allah? And that's why it's so beautiful when we approach this topic from a young age. You have an opportunity to develop that relationship with Allah. You have an opportunity to develop your knowledge. You have an opportunity to develop your connection, your ibadah, your practice, how practicing you are as a girl as well, as a Muslim girl. Your salah, your service towards others, your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your friends. Education, all of that is part of the faith. So number one has to be faith. And with that, khulaqahu, their akhlaq. What is their temperament like? How is their tarbiyah? How were they brought up in their family? Because that has an impact on us. There's knowledge can come, by the way. Knowledge is the easiest thing that someone can seek. You can go and read a book, you can listen to a podcast, you can attend courses, and you can learn knowledge. But tarbiyah and upbringing is something that is very difficult to change. It's almost it becomes ingrained in them. So it's really important to, as a girl, I would say, to look at what environment was he brought up in. Not in a place of judgment, by the way, but in terms of curiosity, to seek to understand. And once you've understood where this person has come from, how do they see, for example, does he respect his mother? Does he respect his sister? That gives you an indication of his akhlaq and what he is like. How is the relationship between his mother and his father? That might give me some information. I'm not here to judge anyone that doesn't have that, but what has he learned from that experience of living in that household as well? These are all valuable information for us to seek when we begin to then make a decision, is this person right for me or not? So I would always say the top two values will always be faith and akhlaq, your deen and your akhlaq, your relationship with Allah, which I would say they're intertwined, obviously. And then there's other things, more practical things, maybe looking at what kind of life does he live? Is he someone that travels a lot? Is that suitable with the kind of life that I want? Does he have emotional intelligence? Does he have social intelligence? These are all things then I begin to explore.
Can I just ask? I feel like all these things are so good that you've said are beautiful, but so many girls might be listening and be like, I want all of that, I have that in my mind, but how can I even test that before marriage? In the getting to know stage, how can I know how he actually treats his parents or how he is with his family? How do I know actually the lifestyle he's telling me he lives? How am I going to see that on a day-to-day if I don't live with him, for example, if I don't see that?
Obviously there's a limit of how much we can know, but there's a lot we can know. I'm not saying we're going to get definitive 100% answers, but you can go a long way. Let's face it, a lot of our community do a lot more research when they're applying for a job or hiring someone than when they get married, right?
That's true.
You'll go and get references and you'll do all of that, but then someone comes in, as long as he's good looking, talks to me in a nice way, makes me feel good, okay, we'll agree with that. Part of it is doing your duty and doing what you can. After that, you have that tawakkul. Allah, I didn't have any shortcomings in that journey. I did what I can. I asked. I spoke to him. I met up. We spoke. I saw him in different environments. Sit in the whole family environment. Sit around his sisters, his brothers, if he's got siblings. Sit with your own family. See how he talks how they talk to each other. See how he is around children. They can't always fake it around children. You have to be smart in exploring who he is or understanding who he is in different environments, if it's possible. And then speaking to his sisters, speaking to his brother, speaking to his friends, trying to get an idea of who that person is. It doesn't mean that their judgment of him defines your understanding of him, but it gives you an idea if things become repeated. For example, if you go and ask his friends, when it's salah time, does he go up and pray? And people say, actually, I've never seen him. That's something that you need to kind of think about. Is salah important? But if he's the kind of person that says, all his friends like, oh my God, as soon as salah, he's first one up, that tells you, okay, salah is at the forefront of his mind. If his mother says he actually has so much respect for me, he calls me a lot, and he has that's a beautiful thing to have. And sometimes people fear that, unfortunately. He's got a good relationship with his mother, I'm not happy about that. That's unfortunate. If he respects his mother, inshallah, he will respect you just as much as well. So you want to seek that kind of person. But also at the same time, does he have independence? Does he know how to make decisions? Does he know how to set boundaries in relationships? Is he independent in that? That's part of that research, is that you learn what impact, what influence did his parents have on him? How much is he able to make decisions for himself? And then you start talking. And once you start talking, you begin to seek to understand him more. He begins to understand you more. It's not about right or wrong, but it's, are you shared in your values? Because it's not about saying, oh, okay, this it's either 100%, but it's my important values, my top values, according to who I am as a person. Do they align with him? If they align with him, that's fine.
That's why I feel like it's so important that you mentioned before, you have to know yourself before you even start. But a lot of girls, even like, for example, parents always, like a girl, for example, might say, I don't feel ready. Like, I don't know myself enough to, like, some girls are aware that, like, you know what, I need to do a bit more self-discovery before I start thinking about selecting a spouse. But parents might be like, you're getting older now. Well, meanwhile, the girl's 22, 23. And they might be like, come on, like, a good proposal has come. He has ABC. Why are you not saying yes? So I feel like there's a lot of external factors that go into even, for example, listing your qualities. So when you're doing this selection process, no doubt there's going to be other people that are giving their input. But how much can you kind of stand your ground and, okay, I just want to feel like I'm ready, which might lead to the question, okay, how do you know when you are ready?
I think in terms of just answering that part of the question and going to the second part, is to know you're ready. Am I ever going to reach a point where I know I'm ready? Probably not. Am I ever going to reach a point where I know myself 100%? No. There's no such thing. Self-discovery and self-awareness is a journey, endless journey, and it's a beautiful journey to explore. But I begin, almost, I always say, with any journey, whether it's business or whether it's marriage or yourself, you open the torch and you start to see things. And the further you go, the more you start to see. But you first have to just open the torch to see in front of you. And once you begin to do that, and begin to open that door of what are the things that are important for me? What are my strengths? What do I enjoy doing? What am I passionate about? Once you begin to explore that question, that in itself starts that process. So will I be 100% ready? Probably not. But can I be ready enough for marriage? Yes. And that requires you becoming, that's why I say emotional intelligence or emotional maturity is really important. Am I someone, as soon as there's a conflict, I turn my back and I slam the door and walk out? Then you're probably not. But if I'm emotionally, when something is painful, yes, it's hurtful, yes, I'm working on myself, but I know how to approach it. I use my mind to approach that topic in an intelligent way. I connect with my own feelings. I know what I'm feeling at that moment in time. I know how to resolve conflicts, social intelligence. I know how to connect with people. That's a journey. Once you begin to see marriage in that way, that you're not seeing it as, oh, okay, I'm wearing a nice, beautiful dress and I'm getting some gifts and I've got someone to share my life with and travel with. If that's where you're entering marriage from, then you're not ready. But if you're seeing marriage for what it is, that this partnership for growth, for Allah, for ibadah, and actually I see it in that way, you're already on that maturity ladder. You've already opened it. Your mindset is in the right way. I would say then you're probably ready. Then you work on yourself continuously. But 100% ready? Never. You could be waiting. And it's never, by the way, age related. Because you can have an 18-year-old who's ready for marriage because of her maturity, and you can have a 30-year-old who's not ready for marriage because of lack of maturity and understanding. Not maturity, I mean generally, not disrespecting these people. They're just not ready for the marriage. They may be ready for all other things, but marriage requires a lot of compromise and giving and understanding and social awareness and emotional awareness and conflict resolution, and that's something you do develop as a couple together, but there is a level that you need to have at the beginning.
That's beautiful.
But there's always a flip side to all of this, where you said you might not be ready as a person, right? But what if you've done your research, you've asked around, and they say, okay, he's a good guy or whatever, or she's a good person, but what if you as a girl has done all that research and you're happy, but your parents are reluctant to help you to research that person, or they're reluctant because he's of a different ethnicity? I know a few people are going through this, and sometimes it's the parents that set up that barrier where they don't want their daughter to go after someone or to have interest in someone. What should they do? And it's things like, sometimes it's things like, oh, not even religion, there could be Shia. But it's like, oh, this person's a Iraqi, or this person's a Pakistani. They don't fit with our our life or our
Where
standards.
do you think this comes from?
Racism. I think it's racism.
Racism, but also where does that come from?
I don't know.
It comes from fear, doesn't it? Fear of unknown, fear of differences. Not necessarily even racism, but also this fear that we're different, that there's going to be added conflict. It's like marriage is tough enough. Why are we adding that layer of differences in culture and understanding and the way we do things, the way we dress, the way we eat, how the in-laws see us, how we see them? There's an added layer. And that it does add an added layer, because when you're culturally different, that plays. You can be Iraqi, but you can live here, and so Iraqi who lives in Iraq, they could be different as well. So any that sort of major differences, it does add a layer of, are we compatible? But also we have to recognize people are different. There are people who are Iraqi but actually have a lot of similarity with other cultures, and their friends are all Pakistani, and they get on, and they've been in and out with Pakistan, they've been raised almost with Pakistani families. They get on with them, so that works. That could work. For the family, it comes out of fear. And that's why I think for a girl, if she's in that situation, acknowledge where your parents are coming from, rather than put that shield up and fight them and get, like, I know what I want. It's seek to understand your parents' point of view and then reassure them. Say, Mum, I know you're scared of this. This is what I'm coming from. This is what I've understood about this. This is the kind of person he is. What is it that you want from me? You want me to be happy, stable, that someone's understanding. This is what he is, A, B, C, D. Reassurance. Because parents don't come from a place of hurt and arrogance, but they come from a place of love, but doesn't mean they do things their actions is love-based, but their intention is love-based. So what we can do is, rather than fight them, is work with them, see where there can be a compromise, see their point of view. They may have a point. But then if you are adamant that actually I'm mature enough to make that decision, get them on board. Because if they're on board, it makes that journey so much easier. Take time.
On that note as well, I did recently have a conversation with a mentor about this, and like, if someone is worried about, there's nothing wrong with the person, that, a religious person, just different cultures. How do I approach it with my parents? And what was said was really beautiful, and it's exactly what you said. It was, why don't we just sit down with your parent and just, they won't understand your mindset. Like, we're different generations. Even if your parents weren't brought up here, you have to recognize that. But just sit down with them. And what I found really beautiful, explain in the Quran what it says. Explain what the Ahlul Bayt encourage. Like, whenever the Ahlul Bayt talk about spouse selection or who you should marry, never once does it say,
in fact,
think about
our
where they're
imams married from different cultures.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating when you read that. There is a benefit to it, in fact.
Exactly.
جعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا. That we can integrate, that we can begin to understand each other. إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. That the best amongst you is those who are most pious, the most God conscious, the most God wary. And that's why it's that taqwa that we are seeking. But also, yes, it's life. It's bringing in the practical element to this. And it's not being naive to the practical element in that, but it's, how do I make it work? Because some people, it might be that the parents are very traditional in the way, but their son or daughter isn't necessarily traditional. And it's, how do you explain that to your family, but keep them on board? And I think sometimes it's sometimes lack of communication. And that drives people away. As soon as we go back, any conflict resolution, find the common ground. Mum, you want the best for me, I want the best for me. Start from there.
Yeah.
I want a good person, you want me to have a good person. Start from there and then work upwards. We go to the ending like, oh, he's Iraqi, she's Pakistani, or vice versa, and then we kind of work backwards. That's not the way to do it. Start with the common ground, start with what you are similar in, and then work around it.
I think it always makes it easier to just talk about God. Like, I feel like it just comes back to that. Like, if you're living a God-conscious lifestyle, you're seeking a godly marriage, talk to your parents about it.
Yeah.
Like, why is it?
And I think, by the way, that comes through a journey. That's why it's when your parents you've grown up and they built up that trust in the way you think, in your way of action, they will also have the courage to trust you in making that decision as well. But if you're making haphazard decisions every single day,
or you're getting defensive,
or you're not seeing the other side, or you don't begin to understand, seek to understand before being understood. Seek to understand them where they're coming from, tell them, yeah, I agree with you, that is a challenge, and this is how I'm going to approach it. Rather than saying, that is not a challenge for me. It's almost like you're saying to them, I'm not listening to you.
Yeah.
So there's practical elements of how we go about it, but as a we know in Islam we don't have that. We don't refuse someone for that.
Yeah.
Could it pose added challenges? Yes, it can. How do I approach it? This is my strategy, and it works for some people and it doesn't work for some people, and that's okay because we are different.
I think me and Zohra, we were talking about how, like, you know, when you're like before you're married, kind of like like reality versus like kind of fantasy stuff as well.
So yeah, that's true. Marriage is quite different to what we expect.
Like what we're sold, essentially. Like growing up, we're told, you know, it's this fairy tale of like, you know, Cinderella and Prince Charming, and like that's what I'll get in the end. And ultimately, sometimes marriage isn't like that. So before marriage, for instance, how can we get rid of that like fantasy world?
Genuinely think marriage, if we do it the right way, it can be even better than Cinderella.
Oh,
why set those expectations? Why set those boundaries? But what is it? Yes, it's not a fairy tale, but it's real life. And the beautiful examples that we have in our history, in our life, are Prophet Muhammad and Khadija, is Fatima and Imam Ali. This is more than Cinderella and Prince Charming. These are the actual prince and princesses. This is how life should be. So when you think about it, yes, there are these pressures, and people misunderstand that marriage is about traveling and eating and going out and having fun. All of that, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely fine. But there's also that you support each other's growth, that you're there for each other's journey. And that's what their marriage was. It's through struggles, through hardship, that you are supportive of each other, that you honor each person's journey, rather than I'm just here to give, I'm just here to receive, I'm also here to give. And when you switch that and you change your mindset, that it's not just about receiving, it's about giving, and there's good in that. And when you give, Allah tells you will receive.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, because in my life, you know, I don't really want to admit this, but before you get married, and also like social media is very harmful, where they say like, oh, the man always has to give, he's the provider, you know, and that kind of like can destroy your future, where you get married and then you expect so much materially, psychologically, emotionally, everything, physically, whatever, and we seem to kind of forget that actual like marriage itself. Like, for example, you just said the more you give, the more you'll receive, right? Within my own circumstances, I love just doing things for others, especially like for my husband. It makes me happy, you know, and I realized, like you said, I get more in return. Like I'm happier, and my mother-in-law us
with
as
that
well.
By the way, it's important to know, where am I giving from? Am I giving from a place of scarcity? Because when I give, I want to feel validated and I want to feel good about myself, or am I giving from pure intention? Because if I'm giving in order to receive as an intention, or in order to feel validated or feel loved, it's almost you're seeking something from outside to fulfill you. Whereas when you're fulfilled and you work on your inner self and then you give, it's more real. You're not expecting anything in return, but it will naturally come to you. There's a difference. Energetically, there's a difference in that. And so it puts less pressure that I'm not here wanting to receive, but I will naturally receive what I give. And also with that, just learn to set boundaries, because there are going to be challenges. There are people who will take advantage of those givers. So give what you can and as much as you can, but with boundaries as well, that you are not over-exhausting yourself to a place where you've become resentful and overwhelmed and overburdened as well. So that's where I think we have to give, but also look after ourselves in that. And that's the balance. And even with motherhood, you know, that we talk about the same thing. It's how do you look after them? And that's the kindest thing that you can do to your spouse, is to look after yourself. The kindest thing that you can do to your kids is to look after yourself. Nurture your own growth. Because when you nurture that, you give the best of you to that person. You're not giving an unhealed person, you're giving a healed person who's intentional in their giving.
So I came across something really beautiful which made me become a giver. I mean, I always was, like, I really wanted to help people and everything, but this one is really like, it stuck with me and it's so important to me. I read something, and I don't know if it's part of a hadith or what, but they say when you get married and you sign that contract, don't think about it like you're signing a contract with this other person in physical, like, okay, this is my husband, I'm signing a contract with you. Think of it as like you're signing that contract with Allah, like your duty is towards Allah, like whatever you give, always think about, oh yeah, I have a deal with my God, with Allah, so whatever I am giving, I'm not giving it for you. Like, I could physically be giving it to you, for you, and whatever,
but I'm doing it for Allah.
But I'm doing it for Allah.
And that's when, like, when you do that, you know Allah's giving it to you.
Exactly.
Because Allah gives you even on your intention.
Yeah.
So whether that person recognizes it, like you've spent maybe a whole day planning a gift, and then suddenly you're like, oh, thanks. I just went through all that effort. But actually, you know that that's rewarded. If you spent a whole day cooking and then he doesn't like it, or he's not thankful for it, then you know that you've done your best. That's rewarded. Yes, it's always nice, akhlaq wise, to get thank you. That's really beautiful. You know, swallow it even if you don't like it, sort of thing. That kind of, that's always welcome. But also remember that you are rewarded for that. And that's the shift in everything, to be honest. Even with your work, even with your friendship, it's give for Allah's sake, because then you will never expect from the abd of Allah.
Exactly. So
you expect, you know, Allah will give it back to you. Allah will reward you. Allah sees it all. So yeah, I think, but with that, I think it's just important to keep level of boundaries of understanding, why am I actually giving? Why have I become that person? And when it's done in an authentic, real, genuine, faith-centered way, there's so much beauty in that.
Yeah, because even if it's not faith-centered, then your marriage could potentially be just a means of, like, you know, some people get married and become obsessed, for example, or that's their only source of comfort, and so then they struggle with all other aspects because they don't have identity.
That's because they've entered it for different reasons. They've entered it maybe to get away from their home environment. It's like, and that's why if we go back to the first question of why am I even getting married? Am I running away from something, or am I running towards something? If I'm running away from something, it's almost like there's so much pressure for that person to fulfill. If I'm not happy inside of me, if I don't have any happiness, thinking that as soon as I get married, I'm going to be happy. It's a bit like someone who's saying, as soon as I buy that car, I'm going to be happy. And then they buy the car and think,
you'll
why
never
am I
be
not
satisfied.
Happy?
Exactly.
There's too much pressure for that car to give you happiness. It's not going to give you the happiness. As soon as I get married, I'm going to be happy. But actually, what if you already have the happiness and that person adds that to that happiness? And that's why it's two people completing each other in terms of growth, rather than this person, I'm lacking something and this person has the pressure to come and fulfill that for me. They have to give it to me. So we have to always take charge of what our needs are, take ownership of our needs, be leaders of our needs, and give that to ourselves. If I want, even by the way, providing. So yes, the husband is in charge of providing, but also, especially with the life that we live, part of your strength comes from you being able to provide even for yourself. I don't mean becoming the breadwinner of the family, not necessarily, of course, but it's saying that I've got something to fall back on. I'm strong enough that I'm not vulnerable in a situation. You don't want to ever be in a place of vulnerability, because then that could be used against you. And that's why when I look at girls, I've worked with girls where they say, what's the point? Why am I even going through the whole A-level and university and all of that, and then I'm going to get married and stay at home? How do you know? You know, I alhamdulillah, I've always been, when I married young, and I remember we were studying together, and then when I had kids, we were always agreed that I would be raising them. I didn't want to put them in a nanny and all of that stuff. But at the same time, there was a part of me that was committed to that, my own growth journey, because you don't know what life brings. What if, God forbid, he can't work anymore? Then what happens? What if, God forbid, something happens to your husband? Then what happens? Are you going to be in a vulnerable position? Or do have you worked on yourself to be financially independent, that you can rely on something if you need to? And that's where the priority is, not neglecting yourself, but it's taking ownership, but choosing it. This time, I am able to look after my kids. I'm able to look after my home and my marriage. But if I need to, I'm strong enough and knowledgeable enough and have the means to then fulfill that part of me.
So it does prevent you from, like, okay, so it's like, it might not prevent you entirely, but it does prevent you from being exploited and being made vulnerable as well. Because that happens to a lot of, like, I've seen it myself with the older generation. They've raised the kids, they've done everything, they've sacrificed everything for that family, for their household, and then the man goes and does some harm and then causes harm to the whole family. That poor woman, she's got nothing. She can't support herself because she wasn't allowed to. Her husband didn't let her to go to work and anything or stuff like that. And at this point, she feels like it's too late. I'm already in my 50s. I can't leave him. I can't find a job. I'm too old. So yeah, I think that's a very...
And that's where we need to be holistic in our thinking when it comes to these topics. It's not having that fantasy that, oh, I can just sit in there and be a princess and get everything handed over to me. It's what's my role in this? And that, by the way, is a beautiful, once you go into that, as in both of you are committed to growth, both of you are learners, and you both support each other, it may mean that maybe for the first 10 years he's maybe starting off a business or approaching his profession or his career, and you will support him in that, and maybe you'll need to slow down. But then once he's reached that, it's like your turn to take up. And it's really nice where you're able to support each other in that journey as well. So finding ground, but it's having that conversation that I'm committed to my own growth journey, and that's not selfish, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And when
selfish.
you do that, the respect that inshallah he has for you, because sometimes what threatens a man from a woman working? What is it that
finances? He's like
she might earn more than me.
She might earn, that might affect how he sees himself in terms of masculinity. Sometimes it's, if she's financially independent, that could put me at risk, that she doesn't need me, that I want her to need me. But actually, what if she wants you rather than needs you? Isn't that nicer? Isn't that more beautiful, that she wants you, that she doesn't need you but she wants you? And it's nice to need someone, but actually it's nicer for you to want somebody in your life. And if you're nice enough and you're kind enough and you've got the akhlaq and you're helping her grow, why would she not want you? Where is that fear coming from? And also sometimes it's that fear that if she's an earner, that then she's going to do things without my permission, or she's going to do things without me. And I think that's the whole mindset. It's how do we enter that relationship? Am I in a place of, again, just taking, or am I also giving to that person as well? And it's honoring her growth as well. You honoring his growth, and him honoring your growth. And I think these are values that we talk about from the start.
That's really important what you said about looking after yourself and about self-growth, right? That it's not selfish to want to grow, to want to do better, to earn money. I've come across people who actually have told me this. I've said I like the idea of working out, eating healthy, going out, having friends, working. So I like it. For me, it makes me happy because I can look after myself, I can sustain myself. Some people have directly to my face told me, you're an individualist, you only care about yourself. This is selfish. When you get married, you have to sacrifice everything for marriage, and that's it. And so they don't like the idea of a woman being able to look after herself and sustain herself, they need a man to be able to do all of those things for them. I don't know.
And I think this is the problem of polarized thinking sometimes, that it's either all or none. That either I give it all up or I have it all. I'm going to live my life when I'm married in exactly the same way when I was not married. I'll go out with my friends as many number of times in the week as I did before marriage. I'll spend as much as I want even before. That's not someone who's mature enough for marriage. That's why we say, yes, there will be a sacrifice from both, by the way. It's not just on the woman. There's sacrifice because now you're sharing, there's the we that we need to work on rather than just the I. It's the we doesn't neglect the I, just like the I doesn't neglect the we. I work on myself for us both to develop. I look after myself so that I give the best of me to you. But if I'm just living my life, I'm going out with friends every single day and I'm just living a normal life as though he doesn't even exist, why am I even married? And that goes the same
for men as
for
well.
him as well. It's wanting to actually spend time together. It's not just saying, oh, I'm married and I'll just use him just to, when we're on holiday, we're together. It's you sharing a life together. And Allah, when he talks about marriage, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so that you find sakina and peace with each other. And the other, I was looking at the verses for this, the other places where Allah uses لِتَسْكُنُوا is when you're asleep. And Layla litaskunu fih. So it's because that's when we kind of let go. We're relaxed when we're in our beds and we're comfortable, and we kind of let go of our struggles. And it's almost like what marriage is doing is giving you that peace, but during the day, and then you've got the peace during the night, because Allah tells you, I've given you the peace at night, but then your wife or your spouse is your sakina during the day. And you know that, you know, if you've got that healthy marriage, if you've come into it with the right mindset from both sides, that it's, I've got the right mizan, the right framework for marriage, you're at peace. You come back from work, he comes back from work, he has this sakina at home. Someone to feel comfortable with, not someone who's, oh, I'm going home again, I have to listen to her, or I have to listen to him, or he's going to give me this, or he's going to give me that. It's that attitude that we enter it with. But if we have this loving relationship, not to be naive in that there's not going to be any conflict, that there's not going to be any disagreement, but even with the disagreement, there's love and rahmah in that.
Yeah.
When I approach that, I always think, I think with marriage, or any relationship, but especially with marriage, I remember I shared this once with a group, I say if we use the, I think it's wasiyat al-Imam Ali to his son. I believe, I think it's that. He says to him, it's a long wasiyah, it's a long will that he gives to his son. And I would really love for all of us to read that, because it's a long one. But part of it we've probably learnt from that hadith or that wasiyah, where he says, اجعل نفسك ميزانا فيما بينك وبين الناس. Put your nafs, yourself, as like a balance between you and your others. فاحبب لأخيك ما تحب لنفسك. Love for others what you love for yourself. واكره له ما تكره لها. What you do not desire, don't desire for other people. ولا تظلم كما لا تحب أن تظلم. If I remember the words correctly, but don't oppress just like you don't like to be oppressed. And if we use that framework of the Imam towards the wasiyah in all our relationships, that I don't speak to someone in a way that I don't like to be spoken to, that I don't oppress someone just like I don't want to be oppressed, if I don't burden someone just like I don't want to be burdened, I don't have su'adhan or what's the su'adhan, you think badly about someone just like I don't want people to think badly about me. Once we go into that framework where I give to people what I love to receive and I don't give to them what I don't want to receive, that's a beautiful framework to go into marriage.
Yeah.
That's like the formula for a successful marriage.
So I read that letter myself as well. Imam Ali alayhi salam addresses Imam Hassan, and it is very long, like you've said, but there's so many gems.
So many. Yeah.
He goes into not only like what you should be with other people, but how you should be yourself.
With yourself
how you
and your Allah,
yourself.
your relationship with Allah
exactly,
as well.
Like it starts with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if you don't put that at the center, then what can you expect out of your life? Like Imam Ali alayhi salam literally says, then like he is telling like a warning, but he's addressing Imam Hassan, but of course he's addressing his ummah, like us even.
Of course.
And if you read it, it's like a letter that he as a father is telling everyone. Like this is what you should be, this is how you should be with other people, and this is how like you can be successful in your life. But I feel like a lot of us cling on to external sources of, okay, what should I look for? But if we just go back a bit, see what our Ahlul Bayt promote and what they tell us to do, like it has the ingredients to everything that we need in our life.
And I think just to add to that, sometimes I think one of the complexities that we face at the moment, I think relates to one of your previous questions, is the complexities of social media and what we're seeing around us. And people portray a snapshot of their life and we think that's their life. Like, oh, look at them. Why is he gifting her all these gifts and treating her like, you know, amazing? And he does all those surprises and romantic days out, and I don't get any of that. How do we know what's behind the scene? How do we know what's behind those cameras and lights and glamour? What is happening? And if they are living that life, alhamdulillah that they're living that life. It's saying, how do I then bring that life how do I bring what I want in my life, rather than jealousy and hatred and kind of having that resentment? How do I get what I'm seeking in my own life? Okay, he might not have that romantic gesture. How do I build that up? Rather than waiting for it to come to me, I can initiate that. I can be the force behind that, because I have to know what my needs are. When I know my needs are, I can then take ownership of those needs. If I want that peace, how do I generate that peace? How do I initiate that peace in the house? If I want contentment, how do I initiate that contentment? So I think it's just being aware of sometimes what we see on the outside and what we come to hold others of high expectation without knowing what's behind it, and appreciating that, yes, that person's wife or husband has certain positive characteristics. My wife or husband has a different positive characteristic, and that's okay. No one is complete, no one is perfect, but I love what I have and appreciating what you have as well.
Excellent. I think it might be a perfect time to do the Hold My Thoughts segment now, actually. For the viewers, if this is your first episode, Hold My Thoughts, we do it every episode, and what we do is we ask you guys a question that we put out on Instagram related to the episode. Inshallah, we'll read out a few, and then we'll also direct some to Isra as well.
So the question was, if you could ask an expert for an insight on spouse selection, what would you ask? And I'm going to read out a few things that did come up. Let's see. So Reflections of Ahl Bayt said, how do I know if someone is truly meant for me and not just a temporary comfort in my life? How do I make sure... This is a anonymous one. How do I make sure I don't confuse attachment with divine compatibility? And then another one was from Zara. Can a person's character change, or can we change someone? And then how a revert to Islam and Shia Islam can approach the topic where there is no community around. So let's start off with, how do I know if someone is truly meant for me and it's not just a temporary comfort?
Yeah. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. وَمِنْ آيَاتٍ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. Allah has created someone for us. Then we have to think, how do I know it's that person? There's no certainty like, oh, this is the person that's meant to be for me. Allah doesn't give that certainty, just like He doesn't give us a lot of knowledge on a lot of things. Do I know when I'm going to be born, or when I'm going to die, and when I'm going to get married? And we don't know these things. But what I can do is say, what is within my circle of control? What can I find out? And that's what we discussed earlier. Like, how much do you know yourself? How much do you understand this person? Who is this person that I'm seeking? Am I entering marriage? Related, I think, to one of the questions that you said. Am I entering it from a place of a healed place or a good place? Or am I seeking something that I don't have? Or am I running away from something that I'm in at the moment? That in itself can guide us to say, am I going for someone who's genuinely good for me? Or am I seeking someone who's good for me that Allah has chosen on me? Or is it something that's related to something else? I think it's just being honest with ourselves. And we know Allah says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرَةٌ وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرَهُ. You do have insight into yourself. It just requires a bit of tafakkur, reflection, thinking. And then it's seeking to get to know people. Don't close the door to anyone, within reason. If they're totally out of it, they look out of it, okay, fine. But it's giving an opportunity to find out more. Don't close the door just because he's doesn't look my type. Get to know him.
I have a question, a follow-up question based on like he doesn't look like your type, or just in general different, right? How a revert to Islam and Shia Islam can approach the topic when there is no community around, because they're quite different.
See, that's the thing. I think sometimes it's taking ownership of your marriage journey, and that's with reverts or non-reverts, young and old. It's taking ownership. If I seek something and I want something, what is the path that I need to do? And then it's almost like if we talk about the topic of manifestation, how do you manifest something? Manifestation isn't just desiring something in my head and then suddenly it comes to me. There's an element of faith that I deserve this, that I will have it. It's believing that I will have it. And I'm deserving of this. I'm deserving of love. I'm deserving of companionship. And then there's an active element to it, where you surround yourself in places where you can meet someone. You attend certain places, you show up. If sometimes we see if girls reach a certain age where they're not married, they might just surround themselves with other girls who are single, because that makes them feel like they are not different, they are similar to those people. But what if you are comfortable to be around your friends who are married? And maybe that then opens up doors for you, rather than blocking yourself away from that world of marriage because you're not comfortable, because there's sometimes vulnerability in that. So sometimes we actually push these things away. So even with reverts, putting yourself in positions where you are able to meet people. Alhamdulillah, there are so many things that are happening now within our community. We are much more open than 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. There are marriage events where you can meet in person, where you are open. Yes, we're still developing. We are still slow in all of those processes. And actually everyone is different depending on your age, depending on your situation, depending on where you live. Do you have people around you? Do you have a community around you? Do you have family around you that can support you to look for someone? Or do you need to take that step where, you know, to just be online? For sure, I'm not against someone looking online, but sometimes it's easier to be in person, to actually see the person. It's less risky because you don't know what's behind the screen. So I think it's just opening ourselves up to opportunities is within our, but then not opening it up with that, oh, this doesn't work and I feel down again and I'm going back to step zero. It's saying this is part of the journey. What did I learn from this event? Not that it was useless, it's what did it actually give me?
I was actually going to add to that. It just made me think of a question. When, for example, girls get to know someone and they might have done it multiple times and it isn't working out for whatever reason, you know, the core beliefs aren't aligning or something comes out in the end, and for example the process it doesn't end up happening, and after that they do feel a bit exhausted, they feel a bit mentally like, oh my god, the getting to know period is a bit draining. How do you manage that?
Again, it becomes draining when we are too emotionally invested into it.
Definitely.
The more we have that tawakkul on Allah, it's like seeking, but I have tawakkul. And when we have that tawakkul, it makes that journey of action a lot more peaceful and less exhausting. Even with emotional drain, it's saying this is a process. It's like studying. We go through so much hardship studying, you know, you go through from your SATs to your GCSEs to your A-levels to then university, and it's just like, it's exhausting. But there's a journey because you know what is coming at the end of it. You know what you're working towards. And that's part of the struggles that you have to face. You have to sit exams, you have to sit mocks, you have to do your personal statement, you have to do all those things. You know, different people choose different pathways, but generally, this is the pathway that you have to go through. So it's saying, for me to be able to find the right person that's going to give me peace and sakina, inshallah, in my life, what is the process to that? And why are we so quick to give up on that when it's the most beautiful journey and the most important journey? You know, the hadith say when you get married, inshallah, you've completed half your religion. And why it says half your religion is because there's so much growth in marriage. There's a level of growth that you can't reach without marriage. And there's a level of growth that you reach with parenting, because it's almost like a mirror inside of you. It's like you have to tackle that. You have to approach it. You're no longer that me all by myself. I live how I want to live my life. It's suddenly that I'm here with someone sharing that life, and that does come with challenge, but there's so much beauty and growth in that. And when you have that sakina, whether it's physical sakina, that, you know, your desires are met, your needs are met, your emotional needs are met, your physical needs are met, when those needs are met, you're able to grow a lot higher. You're able to learn at peace as well. And that's why even the Prophet encourages marriage at a young age, because you stabilize and then you're able to grow a lot quicker.
So we've spoken a lot about like the emotional and psychological aspects of marriage, but I want to speak more about like looks. Do looks matter? The physical stuff. As in, I know some people who have probably met their soulmate, but in terms of like spirituality, characteristics, their personalities like blend in really well, but they're not a fan of their looks, or this person's too short, or what I'm looking for is it's all six-foot man, like handsome, like I don't know, mainstream handsome, like. But some people won't get that. So how important are looks in a marriage?
You know what the best thing about beauty is? It's so subjective.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's subjective. You know, some people will like dark, some people like fair, some people like colored eyes, some people like black eyes, some people. It's so subjective, and that's the beauty of it. That actually there's something for everyone. And I personally think, it could be right, it could be wrong, I think looks is not all or none. You're marrying this person. This is a marital relationship. It's not just a friend that you're having. There has to be an element of attraction, I would say. That I can be attracted to this person. There's some chemistry in this relationship. So it's not just using the cognitive side of things. Tick box, saying everything fulfilled there. Is there chemistry in here? Am I connected to this person? And that might not come straight away, by the way. You know, it might, if he's very handsome, if she's very pretty, that might come as a first thing, but then you have to use your mind to actually navigate, where is this coming from? Is this the right person for me? It's not allowing the looks to lead or emotions to lead your pathway. It's allowing your soul to lead, not even just cognition, your like mind, like tick boxing, and not just your emotional. It's allowing your soul, which combines those two, to lead. And when you do that, you find the right you start to see the beauty in the real person. But it's not that you have to have a level of attraction towards someone. Because you are in an intimate relationship with them. So yes, looks are important, but they're not the leaders to this. And subhanAllah, you see so many people, it's like, you know, and you hear all these stories like, oh, when we met, I didn't really have that connection, but as soon as we started to talk, as soon as we started to meet each other, I saw so much beauty in him or in her. And subhanAllah, there's a hadith, I can't remember the exact hadith, but it's, I think, from Imam al-Sadiq or from the Prophet, where he says that the man who seeks a woman for her beauty or for her wealth, then this is what Allah will leave him to that. But if he chooses her for her deen, then Allah will give him all of it. Because Allah becomes your wakil. Allah becomes your wali in that. So Allah waliyul ladina amanu. So if you come with it from iman, if you're coming after her for her iman, Allah will give you her looks and her wealth and her iman. But if you come only for that, you're going to be left with the worldly things to actually go about it. And actually, beauty is something we get used to. You might see this, you know, beautiful plant. As soon as you buy it, you're in awe of it. After 5 months,
it'll fade.
It becomes part of the furniture. But the beauty of when you go for someone for their deen, you continuously see that beauty. It doesn't become part of the furniture because you're not looking at the physical element, you're looking at something much deeper than that, which is always growing because you're helping each other grow and it's always being nurtured, so there's almost unlimited beauty in that.
So would you say someone who only looks for like physical appearance and they have to be this and then I will look at everything else, do you think they're not ready?
I think they're not giving themselves enough, almost they're oppressing themselves, I would say. There's a level of oppressing yourself. You're not giving yourself a chance. And that you may regret that later. That's why I say give things a chance. Gain an experience of it. See where it goes. If you've spoken a few times and actually say there is literally no chemistry, fine, fair enough. But there's a spark in there and he fits all the other purposes. You never know. And you could have closed the door from day one.
Interesting.
So I think you can then, and you know, we see people and then they get older and then they start to compromise on too many things that even their values start to get compromised because they're just seeking marriage. They're so desperate for marriage that they start to give up on their values, which we don't want to get to that point.
I love how everything we've spoken about when it comes to marriage has always been linked to like niyyah. God consciousness, and marriage is just not like a transaction. It's not two bodies. It's a relationship, a unison of the souls. And I feel like maybe a lot of the girls that are watching that are young may not have seen marriage in this way. So when it comes to actually finding a spouse, you know, there's so many different ways that people can find. You know, they're doing matchmaking events in mosques, for example. There's dating apps. Which ones are actually useful? And maybe how should we approach it for girls that are looking to get married and in that stage at the moment?
This is a tough one. I think it is sensitive, and I don't feel like there's one answer for everyone. And I think that's the key thing. Depends on the person's situation and what works for them and what doesn't. If I'm, for example, if I'm surrounded by a big community and a big family and I've got friends that I can ask and actually there's good potentials within my community, I think that's an easier pathway sometimes. It's people that you know. If there's no one that, I'm not saying that it's a last resort, but it's being open to people that you can meet in person, because meeting in person allows you to see the person for themselves, and that's easier for you then to find out, are we actually a good match? Is there a chemistry? Is there all of those things? There are people who have made it work even through the apps, and I don't know much about it. I'm not gonna sit and say I'm the expert in this. I have seen people who, alhamdulillah, have made it work and they've married very happily through apps. But again, it's just being aware. I would say there's more risk potentially. It takes time for you to find the right person. There are people who are going to be lying on the app. So you have to be more mindful of what is behind the screen. Any screen, what is behind the screen. And even when you're getting to know them, if you're just getting to know a person behind the screen, there's a limitation in that. When you're not seeing their body language necessarily, you're not seeing them, how they interact within their family unit, within my family unit, how are they behaving. So I think we are probably slower as a community with all of those, and inshallah things will develop, and alhamdulillah things are developing. But the beauty of it is that it opens you up to people that are outside of your direct circle, and that could be a really positive thing, as long as we are aware of the risks involved. And that requires, again, some level of maturity as well. And I might be more of, there is a traditional element in me where I do believe there's a benefit to parental involvement, especially when, I'm not talking if they're older, I think that it's different, but if the the boy or the girl are younger, there is a barakah and there's so much guidance in that, which can be really beautiful. Because sometimes when you are younger, you can be emotionally driven a bit more. Maybe you've not reached that emotional maturity enough for you to make that. And that's why parents can help to navigate those things and ask you the right questions and help you see things in a different way. So I do believe in the parental involvement to be of use, again, depending on the age, depending on the situation, depending on the family relationship, the network around them. But the earlier that family unit comes in, the better it is for a marriage, because I don't believe in two individuals get married and that's it.
Yeah.
They each come from a family, and there's beauty in that. Actually, Islam focuses on family, and when you connect with families, it makes that marriage so much easier. When you know that your husband gets along with your family, when your family get along with your husband, when you get along with your in-laws and your in-laws get along with you, that journey is so much easier. There's so much more peace in that, and we can work on that. Whereas if we're doing everything behind closed doors and then suddenly we come, oh, by the way, we're getting married, mum and dad, they feel they're not connected with that. They feel that they're not part of this relationship. So yeah, I do feel there's a benefit. Might be a traditional way of thinking, but that's
no, honestly, like everything you've said in this episode, it's been absolutely just you've been dropping gems left, right, center. I know I've learned so much, and unfortunately we do have to wrap up this episode, but I've learned so much, and Zohra, I'm sure you have as well.
I did,
and the girls watching as well. So if there was one thing that you could leave the girls who are trying to find a spouse, are in that process but maybe are getting a bit anxious as they get older, what kind of advice would you give to them?
just one.
I know it's hard.
I think with that, I think it's just trusting the process, but giving yourself a chance. Don't resist it. Sometimes we seek something, but energetically we actually resist what we're seeking. So being aware, where am I energetically, where am I spiritually with that journey? Being open to meet different people. Don't shut doors. Sometimes when we get older, we almost give up on the process. There's a part of me that tells me, you know how I said the belief system is really important, that I'm deserving of it and I will have it. Sometimes when we get older, and unfortunately it's not even old, where we've reached a point where 22, 23, 25, 26-year-old girls are saying, I'm too old, this is never going to happen. That's quite sad. They're still young. But actually saying to yourself, I will, and having that belief that I will find the right person. But a lot of girls, when they reach that age, they say, it's never going to happen. What's the point? And when you enter any conversation with that sort of belief system, you're almost setting yourself up for failure, because you're going to prove your mind correct. Whereas when you go in there and you think, I will find the right person, and you make the effort with that belief and amal, when you make the effort in that journey, inshallah, it will happen. Have full tawakkul, dua, don't forget dua in this journey. There's so much, you can do a nidr, you can, that dua, going to ziyarah and asking Allah for that, bihaq ahlul bayt, for this thing. For his sake, Allah, I'm doing this for you. I want this form of ibadah. Guide me to be the person that is ready for marriage. Help me be that person, and then help me find the right person for me. So I think part of it is you working yourself, the dua element. It's difficult to have one thing, but definitely work on yourself. Take action to actually seek it, and don't forget the spiritual element of dua in it.
Beautiful. Honestly, you've given such amazing advice, so that I've benefited so much. I'm sure Zohra and the girls even watching have.
Inshallah.
So thank you so much for joining us today and to talk about this topic. You've definitely done it justice as well.
Inshallah.
Do you want to plug your Instagram, girls? If you are on Instagram, please follow Isra. What is your tag so the girls know?
It's IA Coaching, Isra Altayar. So
girls, you heard it. Please go follow her, support her work and everything she's doing for the community. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Hold My Heart. Don't forget to subscribe to After Maghrib Podcast and follow our Instagram as well, Hold My Heart Pod. And inshallah, we'll see you again for another episode very soon. Assalamu alaikum.